Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog, which has been gone for quite some time.
2 weeks. We've skipped 2 weeks. People were getting married. 2 of our players did. Congratulations to them because they're amazing. And so yeah, we were gone doing that. But
yeah. So we missed games, we missed everything, kind of out of it.
So we're gonna answer like 9 million vlog questions today, or 10, because our vlog has like backed up. Like you guys sent in like 52 questions. I don't know, a lot.
We have a lot of questions.
So we're trying to get a bunch of them posted out for you today. So
they'll go kind of quickly, but we'll try to be as complete as possible.
Yes. Alright, so let's start with the first one. When a Titan avatar dies, things get bad fast, but because whatever they were linked to goes out of control. What about if the Titan avatar steps down and becomes a god? Does everything they're linked to go nuts as well?
First of all, I think that should be pretty rare.
Yeah, it's something that is not going to happen in the background. It needs to happen as part of your game, and it probably shouldn't happen very often. Most of the time, Titans aren't going to become gods. It's the special circumstances.
Well, I mean, it could happen in the background as part of the story. Like if
I guess it could.
The PCs didn't know about it. It doesn't have to be something the PCs did.
But it'd be part of your plot. It wouldn't just be something that happened in the history for no reason.
Yeah, and it should be like super rare, and it should be not happen a whole lot.
Yeah, we've been playing 4 years, and we've had it happen 1.5 times.
1.5 times.
Yeah, because one person's still trying to do that. So, probably wouldn't the world is not going to have that thing fall apart, we would probably say. If that Titan avatar leaves, probably the Titan realm itself will just appoint something else to take that place. Because it won't be like that, they wouldn't have killed that idea. It wouldn't have been destroyed. It would just have stopped being represented by that person. So it's most likely that some other Titan avatar or some other god or some most high-ranking Titan spawn will just become the new Titan avatar of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, what that is will depend on who it was and how they left and whatever is going on in your game. But yeah, if Erebus, quits being the Lord of Darkness, that won't make darkness not exist anymore because no one killed him. Mm-hmm. It will just mean somebody else takes that job.
Yeah, no one killed the concept. Like, they represent concepts and ideas.
Yeah. Alrighty, second question. Have you considered making Skadi a playable goddess? It's not like the Aesir don't have a history of allowing giants in their ranks. And if not, what role do you think she would play in Scion?
Well, we always do try to consider as many people as are possible. We read through, whenever we look at a pantheon, we'll read through all their major myths, and then we'll look through second source material, and we'll look through library books. And we'll do a whole bunch of different stuff.
So we did consider Skadi back when we worked on
We generally consider everybody. We considered Aesir. We considered
just
a ton of
everyone, pretty much. And we decided not to use Skadi for a couple of reasons. First of all, she doesn't actually really do much. She's only a major character in the one story in which she does not do anything but be mad that her father is dead. And have bad perception trying to pick out who's Balder. She doesn't really do anything. She's famous for being great at skiing, but since that's the only thing we've got, and Ulr's already doing that, there's no reason for her to be a separate playable god.
Ulr kind of barely makes it in.
He does.
Having someone who's only does some of the stuff Ulr does.
Yeah, he was in charge of the Aesir once, so he gets a pass, but the other thing about Skadi is that, while you're right, the Aesir totally will hang out with giants. They'll marry giants. They have children with giants. The giants themselves are never considered Aesir. There are Aesir that are half-giant, like Thor or Loki, but there are not Aesir that are just giants, unless you count Odin back at the top of the genealogical tree. If you count Odin as half-giant.
Yes.
Yes.
You do. So,
you wouldn't say that someone like Skadi or Aegir or Gerd was actually one of the Aesir. They'll occasionally appear on lists when they talk about, the female goddesses, because they're married to Aesir gods, but they're still a separate, distinct being. Giants are a different thing.
Right.
So, they can intermarry, they can have kids, but they're usually not counted as one amongst the ranks, really. So, yeah, we wouldn't include her, but she's still around, you can do a lot of stuff with her in Scion if you want to.
Yeah, what role does she play? She'd probably make a good guide. Yeah,
she would be a great guide. She'd be interesting. If you have signs of Njord, they may have a troubled relationship with her because of their weird, failed marriage thing. Or, if you have Scions that are trying to, make the giant, do stuff with the giants and kind of get diplomatic relations open, she's a good place to start with that. Mm-hmm. Maybe, kind of. They did kill her dad, but, she's go through her stories. I mean, she's got a lot of stuff that is interesting. It's just not interesting in a way that makes her a good playable parent, so. Third question. Which of your characters started out with all 3 epics in one category?
This is a weird question because really more the opposite is true. I think more often than not, people start with all 3 in at least one category.
Yeah, your fighter characters are almost always going to start with epic dex, strength, and stamina because they're going to get hit in the face and they need all those things. And your people that are like, I need to be the brains of the operation are going to pick up all the mentals because why wouldn't you?
Well, we started with a few new characters in the New York game today.
Yeah.
We'll go through them and see who started with those things.
Well, if you have their character sheets memorized.
Oh yeah, I guess they're on the computer.
They're on the computer.
I know Winona.
Yes.
Started with everything.
She started with all 3 physicals. We're going to have these guys up on the website later this week because they just started today. They're not there yet.
Jake started with all 3 physicals. Alan, I don't think started with all 3.
I don't think he did.
But I know that Simon, I think, started with all 3 mentals.
That makes sense, yeah. I think he did. The thing is that when you're beginning as a hero, like at the very beginning level, you have more dots to spend on epics than, it's almost no reason not to have 3 and everything. Because you're not, investing, saying, I'm going to be a super god of this stat. You're saying, I want a little of this stat to get by. And so, having more epics is good for you. Like, if you're using the original rules, you've got 15 points of epics and boons. You could potentially have 1 in everything, and that would be totally legit. Because you're just a Scion. Having 1 epic strength does not mean you're a super strength beast. It means you have 1 epic strength. And if you're, using our rules, you still have the opportunity to have all 3 in a category or 2. And it's not, you're not at the point yet where you're deciding what you are. You're still kind of formless and you're heroic. So the stats are more like, these are things I need to do stuff rather than these are things I'm focusing on. Because you don't know what you're focusing on yet.
I think most rare is probably all 3 socials. Usually someone makes a choice between charisma and manipulation.
I think I've only seen that once.
All 3?
Yeah, Mohini started with all 3. But I think she's the only one I know.
Did Michael not?
He might have, yes. I think Michael
did as well.
Michael
Well, because he's Ishtar and she started with all 3.
Exactly.
That's
yes.
fine.
So we've had 2 out of 100 people start with.
There might be close to
socials.
100 now. Yeah, it might be close to 100 characters.
Yeah, so I mean,
there's 30 in Easter Promise as well.
It's not necessarily rare, but it isn't. It's really common for people to pick all 3 in one.
Yeah, I think
it's useful.
The physical people almost always do.
Yeah, and the mental people often do too, just because you don't want to be the smart person who can't do anything until they're 10 ticks into the combat, and you don't want to be the smart person who doesn't know what's going on because it doesn't help.
You don't want to be Gioni?
You don't want to be Gioni. Gioni doesn't want to be Gioni.
She's smart and she can't see and she thinks slow.
Yeah. 20 minutes after the scene, she knows exactly what to do.
But I think so a lot of people did start out with 3 epics, or epics in all 3 in the category.
Yeah. It's more of our characters did than didn't, so we're not going to give you a list.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
All right, 4th question. I know you're not going to tell us any plot points or activities involving Alison Margaritas and how she affects the plot of the stories, but could you at least tell us what she's got and what her powers currently are, and the same for Colin?
Wow, we're really not going to answer this question at all.
No, we're not. Well,
okay, so the end of the question was same for Colin.
We'll answer that. Allison, you don't get to know anything about. I'm sorry. You need to vote for Allison for the stories to find out what's going on with her, because it's a lot of weird, complicated stuff, and telling you would be massive spoilers, not just for you guys, but also for the players that don't actually know everything about what's going on with her.
Yep.
But Colin we could talk about a little bit, because the players have seen Colin in game as a god.
Colin's big on chaos, magic, and moon. Those are his 3 big things. He also has a little bit of animal that he had left over from Demigod.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing? He's got a little bit of something else. A little bit of illusion.
Yes.
And he's got a lot of mystery.
Yeah.
Those are his main stuff.
Yeah. Colin is he is a god now. They know he's a god. They've seen him. He lives on Olympus. They have no idea what his name is. So far, nobody's figured out what his name is as a god.
Yeah.
So people who knew him before, like Gioni, call him Colin. People who don't try unsuccessfully to get him to tell him his name, and then he refuses. Aurora used to call him Anonymous.
People have been trying very hard to find his name, but they usually give up.
Basically, someone's going to have to eventually front up some mystery questions for it, but nobody's wanted to do it yet so far. So he lives on Olympus. So far as people can tell, he kind of helps out whatever gods there need help at the time, but he's very, he's Colin, so he's very whimsical. Sometimes he does stuff that doesn't make sense. Sometimes he helps people and then helps other people that are fighting them. The PCs don't like him much because he makes their lives hard.
Yeah, he usually uses other people's entertainment as much as he can. He was involved in something Zeus was going to do during Ragnarok, but it's the thing that died stopping.
Yeah.
So we don't know what was going to happen with that.
Yeah, it didn't happen, so... And that was the only time ever that Ghost defeated Colin.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if Colin wanted to do the thing.
That's true.
We don't know if it was something Colin was trying to actually do. He was just going to be involved.
Or he was just there. Yeah. So that will all happen much later. But yeah, so Colin he's pretty much just a much bigger, larger than life version of baby Colin than he used to be. He's a lot more as a god. He like plays up more. Am I crazy or do I actually have like secret wisdom? But most of the time, the PCs are pretty sure he's crazy. Sometimes he plays charades and knocks people out if they won't play with him.
Yeah. Yeah, he does a lot of that, like, crazy moment of insight that kind of throws you off kilter. Crazy.
Yeah. He's the same dude. He's just a god version now.
Yeah. Let it have a sister to bother him.
Yeah.
He's just let run rampant.
Yeah. And he doesn't talk about her. He just says sadly that we don't talk about my sister. And he goes on with his day.
Yeah. And there's a maze to get to his sanctum.
Yeah, he has a maze around his sanctum so that if you want to get to his house from Olympus, you have to figure out basically your way around labyrinthian lingering forever. Most of the time the PCs can't. He has to let them in. It's there because he's having a feud with Victor Fingers from way back in the day when he killed Sly and almost killed Victor. And it's there basically to prevent Victor from just murdering him all the time on Olympus. Because Victor's a god now too. So
I forgot Victor's name.
His name is a god?
Yeah. It's something. It's written down somewhere.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, he's god of soldiers. It's in the books. But...
Well, yeah, but he's not actually that. He's...
Oh, we gave him some other name. Yeah, it means like the most skilled or something.
Yeah, he's like god of most skilled.
Yeah, I don't remember, guys. Sorry. So anyway, on to the next question. Can you guys tell me what happens if someone gets so powerfully negatively fate-bound against intelligence that their intelligence rolls automatically fail, or the stats effectively 0? I know the floor is actually 1, but with the modifiers it can drop lower, so are you incapable of speech? Can you get dressed? Can you make human food? Do you become basically animal intelligence? Is there a hard floor for how bad this can get, even with fate bonds?
So the fate bonds really only affect rolls, so like rolls that you roll with dice. Native fate bound to dexterity is not going to make your DV lower. And kind of the same idea, a negative fate bond to intelligence isn't going to make your ability to think like a person actually lower.
If you have to roll, like you're like, I need to remember something or I need to figure something out, that you will fail at.
Yeah.
But if it's just, do I still know how to talk and chew my food? Yes, you do.
Yeah. So you know, like you don't. What do we say? We say in my sketch comedy group, don't jock it up. So you know, if you're supposed to be really stupid, don't be throwing out high vocabulary words. Like you probably don't remember those. Generally, intelligence comes with a high vocabulary, able to bring lots of different meanings and words around.
I mean, when you get that badly negatively fate-bound to intelligence, you'll usually buy it down.
Yeah.
And so once you're down at, look at the level of intelligence you have, play that. So if you've only got 3 dots, you're a fairly intelligent human. If you've got 1 dot, you're a moron.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that may be happening at demigod or god level may be like blowing past you. You may be too stupid to deal with all of that stuff. Yeah. But if you went to Earth and you wanted to read Catcher in the Rye, you could still probably understand it.
Probably puzzle your way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it a lot with Estley because she's in game and she is that level of cannot make any kind of intelligent roll that's not related to a cult. And she can technically read, but she's incredibly slow and she doesn't really have good reading comprehension. And she can still talk, but she doesn't use words bigger than 2 syllables, that kind of thing.
You don't remember a lot of stuff.
Yes, usually we do an intelligence academics roll to remember something. If it's like the lower your intelligence is, the more often we make you roll to remember things instead of assuming you know it. And so if you can't make that roll, you just forget stuff pretty much all the time. So you're forgetful, you're slow, you're dull, but you don't need help getting your clothes on in the morning.
Yeah.
Unless you have
you don't become retarded.
Exactly.
As we use it colloquially.
So, next question. Can you guys explain the circumstances that lead you to putting people on enemy lists? For example, I'd like to know how this guy becomes an enemy with this god, etc.
Enemy lists are stupid.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day.
Well, it was rivals originally, right? Was it?
Yes, well, there's rivals, and then World at War introduced also enemies.
That's right. I think it's messy. It denotes a kind of setting that doesn't exist. Like, without explanation of why those people are against each other, it's useless.
Yeah.
It's just...
And it's pretty much arbitrary, because if you're looking at it, because it's a mythology setting, gods from different pantheons have not interacted with each other in most cases, so it's kind of completely arbitrary who you decide is not friends with whom else, or who is having a rivalry with whom else.
So in the current way, it doesn't work. We will probably remove it at some point.
Yeah, we kept him as like a legacy item from the books, and then we used them to kind of keep track of funny little things like, here's these guys that we know have had enmity between them during the game, so we'll put the money choice enemy lists, or oh, Poseidon's mad at Jeff, let's put Jeff on Poseidon's enemy list. But we'll probably end up taking them off the website. They don't actually do anything.
I think it could be useful for a setting. Like if you're going to play some setting where, let's say the Mediterranean Ocean had come under siege for some reason. And so you're only playing the Mediterranean pantheons, and then you had little bits about which ones had different rivalries and antagonisms and stuff. If you made like like you were going to make an Old World of Darkness game and like come up with like who the Primogen Council is all against each other.
If you have a meta plot, then you will know who are rivals and enemies.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and you're just coming into the setting from the baseline, they don't make any sense, and there's no reason to worry about them. You don't have to be like, oh, I can't have this god be buddies with this guy because it says they're rivals. Ignore it. It doesn't matter.
Like the way, like, if you played Old World of Darkness in like 1995, like Chicago by Night had like it had those things where like the rivalries, and like it would have like a big map with all the arrows going to rivalries and enemies and siblings, and then it had like 8 pages explaining all of that and like the reasons all of that happened. And if you're gonna have rivalries, you need that to make any sense of it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just random names. So you don't know
I
what's
think
going on.
right now that's the thing they just did was who shares purviews. They all hate each other.
They're all rivals. Yeah.
In the original book, it was like one person from each pantheon that was a rival with each person, except Loki, who hated everyone, who was rivals with everyone for no reason.
Yeah. So, obviously there are times when it makes sense. Zeus and Baal, probably rivals because they're both in the same area trying to be the top dog. But, most of the time it depends on what you're doing in your story, so don't feel like you're constrained by those. We're going to probably remove them at some point.
Yep. Onward.
Do you think the Mongolian gods have any chance of being incorporated into Scion someday?
Nope.
In the officially published line, no, I don't think they're ever going to do that. I don't know if second edition is going to suddenly go.
Yeah, second edition could do anything.
If they do, that would be pretty awesome and amazing. But I don't think that's a good chance. Like the Mongolian gods are just so not well known. Most people couldn't name any of them. If they could name them, they'd know one, which is Tangri, and nobody has any. Like I'm sure most of you watching this right now probably know a little bit about them because you are all about some science and mythology. But most people don't, and they're playing to the bigger player audience who want to know about gods they know about. So, if you're talking about, are we going to do Mongolian gods at some point? It's possible. I'd like to do lots of pantheons. There are billions of pantheons. Not really, but a lot of pantheons that I would like to do, and they're one of them. But, I don't know for sure, like, when that would happen or whether it would happen instead of somebody else. So, if someday the spirit moves us, we'll put him on the pole. And our next question, what is it you dislike about the Celestial Bureaucracy? Is it the original rules? Is it something else? Are there any quick fixes you have in mind? And why is a Water Titan Realm a good pick for them?
I find Asian mythology less than super interesting.
Asian mythology is very different from, it's a difference in how storytelling goes and where it's coming from. So if you come in from, Greek mythology, which is, ridiculous pulse-pounding stories of monster fighting, and then you look at, Japanese court mythology, which is a lot of begats and a lot of genealogy and a lot of these people created this but have no interesting, attributes, it can look, really boring. And especially if you're Western and you don't really understand a lot of the symbolism going on, it can seem like you don't understand what's happening or it doesn't have the same resonance. Because we are Western, so Eastern things look foreign to us, because they are.
In addition, the Celestial Bureaucracy that is in the books is mostly garbage. We've commented on that before.
We really, really hate their PSP. Most of their associations are terrible.
And
there's a really strong communism flavor for no apparent reason.
There's a couple problems going into that. One is, we have problems with all the pantheons and, in separate number. But the Celestial Bureaucracy is actually really hard because information on them is very, very difficult to get. So if the original writers were as stringent as we are on getting information and figuring everything out, they would have still had a very hard time. China is in a tough spot. They don't, a lot of places around the world kind of take their mythologies and hold them up high as like relics of culture and things of pride to look upon. But China's in a tough spot right now. It's actually illegal to do any of that.
Yeah, China is still a communist country right now, which means that you don't do religion there.
Religion is illegal.
Millions of people there still practice their religions, but they don't do it in a way that is very obvious, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And
There's problems in Tibet. There's problems in, just with even some Buddhists throughout the country. Confucianism, I think, is allowed.
Confucianism is allowed because it is a philosophy and not a religion.
Yes.
If you do it just as because Confucianism is also kind of the government religion.
But I know Christians have a hard time over there.
Yeah. Any form of religion does. Yeah. And when you started with Chinese mythology...
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. When I say have a hard time, I mean, are murdered by the thousands occasionally.
I don't know if thousands has happened recently, but they are definitely not allowed to, it's, communist rhetoric involves do not have a religion. It's not a good idea. And
your religion is the state.
Exactly. And so when you already had Chinese mythology being actually 5 different religions that have kind of grown together and influenced each other over
That's the other
time.
thing, is it's kind of shitty to put all China together.
Yeah.
China is the size of 3 Europes.
Yeah, it's
and
huge.
Europe has a bunch of different mythologies, so it's not really fair to say, oh, all of China is this one mythology, because it's a country now.
Yeah, China's got Taoism, and it's got Buddhism, and it's got Confucianism, and it's got Shintoism, and modern folk religion, and it's just... And all of that's been influenced by Christian missionaries and Indian missionaries, and it's just...
And so many of them didn't have, really a central, city. You didn't have in Athens where you could go and all the culture would come together, and sometimes it was just the religion of the village was their ancestors.
Yeah.
They worshipped their ancestors, and they had, some house gods.
Yeah, and it's also incredibly old, and so you have, completely different religions from dynasty to dynasty that are also influencing each other or replacing each other. And it is really difficult to untangle, even if you have a lot of really good sourcing and information on it. And we don't most of the time, because it's hard to, comparatively, there's not very much written about it in English. And it's difficult to even get anything in the original languages now, which we don't speak, because China is not producing them right now, or at least not producing them as much, because they're communist.
China has so many languages that sometimes even, Chinese people don't speak the languages that the stuff is written in.
Yeah, and, older Chinese texts are not always decipherable by people that speak modern Chinese anymore.
And we're not allowed to do... as foreigners, we're not even allowed to get those kind of books. If I could speak Chinese, I could not get the books I needed to figure any of this out.
Where we can, theoretically, we could have... when we went to Greece, we could look at stuff in Greece. We could get materials in Greece that we could read. Yeah. If we read Greek, we could not do that in China. So... There's a lot of stuff working against them getting as fair a shake as the other pantheons. And so it's not that we hate them, it's just that they're really hard, and they need a lot of time and work that is a lot harder to put in than it is.
We tried to do a thing where we got as many Chinese books as we could, and most of them were half-assed, some of them were just bad.
A lot of the ones you can get in English that are available are old. They're from the turn of the century, from the 18th century, early 19th century, 19th century, early 20th century. So they're either bad information or they're British people that didn't really understand what's going on.
Horribly racist overtones. You don't know if the information is real or if the person's just being racist.
Yeah, and you don't have you have that with every study of mythology, but when you're doing Egyptians, you have that, but then you can continue reading on through modern scholarship and see where those things fell out of favor, where they were replaced by non-racist rhetoric, etc. And you don't have that as much for China because there's no continuum, or the continuum is so much more narrow and small.
Yeah, so we'd be very happy to do Chinese stuff. It needs a lot of work, and we don't have the sources to get that work. Our library doesn't have a lot of it. We have a really good library.
It has some that's in Chinese, but we cannot read that.
We're one of the best libraries in the country, and we can't get it. And we tried to buy... There were some English translations I remember that were a couple $100.
Yeah, there are some, if you find a really good source,
yeah.
With $200, can you afford that? We can't. We are poor. So it's something we want to do and we plan to do in the future, but...
Yeah, we bought a few books. They were $25, and they were all horrible.
Yeah, so we're sorry if you feel if you ask us questions about China and you feel we kind of did a brush off or we didn't do a real thorough job, it is not because we're ignoring you or even because we hate China. It's just there is so much that we need to do to be... Yeah. It's an area that we are not experts in, and so sometimes you just have to kind of say, I don't know, do what you want. So.
I think maybe 40, 50 years from now, China may open up a bit. There may be a resurgence of that possible learning of culture, but at this point, literally in time, China is cock-blocking us.
Yeah, and so it's just, the information's out there, but much harder to find, and so sometimes we're going to have to wait and make that a big project when we get there. Onward, John. This question is about Cernunnos. Why is he so powerful? He has 9 reviews. I said Cernunnos. Cernunnos is the appropriate pronunciation, but for some reason we always say Cernunnos because we're English speakers and we see a C.
Cernunnos is under the Gaulish section, which, if you note on our website, is in a separate section.
Yeah, it's hidden under that little "Are you looking for other people" stuff, which means we're not using it right now.
Yeah, that means we haven't vetted it. Everything else has been vetted by us. We've gone through it thoroughly. Probably every other Pantheon we spent at least like 100 hours on, just really working through it, slogging through it. And the Gauls, we started to do that and went. We tried really hard, and we were like, oh, none of these people are like really there enough. These are kind of all made up.
Yeah, they obviously existed. They obviously had important cults, but there is just no record of them.
Yeah, no record.
Or what, we know have their names on stone things. We have some Romans kind of saying things they think they did or
yeah, like they saw it on a stone. We can see that stone, and we have Julius Caesar's account where he says, "Oh, that's Mercury," and then we can go, "Oh, well, let's just give them all the same stuff we gave Mercury," and that's not good scholarship.
For most of them, that's like the definition of this guy's not Legend 12. His legend was not powerful enough to survive the centuries to get to us.
But Kyrinos was. Kyrinos is the only one who was powerful enough. He was in a bunch of different cult centers. We know a little bit about him, but we haven't, because we didn't want to do the whole Pantheon. We just didn't do a full thing on him.
So Kyrinos is still, we did a quick edit when we first got the supplement, but he's still mostly the stuff from that supplement.
Mostly straight from the book.
And it's not good. So
yeah, and it's not. So
he has too many purviews, is what we're saying.
Were we to one day go through and do Legend 12 gods that are super important from cultures that maybe don't have a whole Pantheon? Like your Cernanos, Anansi, probably somebody from Maya or something.
Sure.
Maybe
he says that to tease me because he knows I'm working on the Maya.
Maybe like a Nanook or something.
Yeah.
We would do individuals that we would read all their stories and go through. That'll probably be something that's on a poll at some point.
Yes.
To do. But for right now, Kyrinos has the stuff that was in the book at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go with this really big stuff, go with fertility, animal magic. And don't worry about the rest unless you find stuff about it. And stamina, yes. I wanted to point out, though, that when you say, why is he so powerful, because he has 9 purviews, having a lot of purviews does not necessarily mean you're more powerful. It just means you're more versatile. We talk about it a lot with the Greeks don't have very many purviews. That doesn't mean they are less powerful gods than people that have a lot of purviews. It just means that they do fewer things and are more focused on them.
Yeah.
It's what they represent fewer things as gods, but that doesn't mean that they are less powerful as gods.
Yeah, let's say
Ares can still murder somebody that has 9 purviews.
Yeah, every god's got 9 purviews, or a god with 9 purviews, and he's got a relic that gives him a cool bonus to each purview. He still only has so much legend. He only do so much. But if you have one god with 1 purview and 9 relics that all give bonuses to that 1 purview, he could be considered more powerful. Yeah. Depending on the purview, and there's just too much going on.
More purviews is more options and it's more flexibility, but you have to remember that they can't use all those purviews at once. So it's not actually, in the heat of the moment, doesn't necessarily make them more powerful. So, last question. Imagine a Gotham by Night without John. Imagine a Gotham by Night without Anne. What would either of those look like, besides non-existent?
Okay, I'll go first, I guess. Okay. Alright, so Gotham by Night without Anne would not probably be a website on a web page. It would probably be a Google document with me and my friends and my players. And, wouldn't have any stories.
It does say besides non-existent, so pretend the website is there.
Besides, oh, well, yeah. Okay, so I got a website, but I can't put pictures on it or put anything on it. It would be bullet points. It would be a long list of bullet points of rules that I did.
Yeah. Gotham by Night without John, I think it would have more stuff on it because the process for vetting stuff is a lot longer with John than it is with me. I'm a little more permissive than he is usually. And I think that a lot of the house rules wouldn't be there or wouldn't be as well thought out because I tend to be more fluid and John is the more mathematical rules lawyer side of the operation. So there would be house rules that didn't occur to me. I would never have put up a table for your lifting capacity. I'd have been whatever, figure it out.
You're strong.
Yeah, deal with that. Character sheets might not be up because we did that in large part because John could then quickly get access to them for storytelling, and I don't really use that as much. And the blog would not have the once a month shouty rants when John comes in and does a
But
shout-out.
it would have like 9 posts a day.
It would have like 9 posts a day because I would just post every time someone sent a question in, and I would be a sad, tired person, and I would weigh like 80 pounds, and it would.
Question
be,
came in. Question came in.
Yes, there would probably be more Legend 12 Pantheon. Like, I'd have done more extra Pantheons, and I'd have finished the Asian Pantheons, but maybe I wouldn't have done things like making you guys a relic supplement. I would never have done that, or
They don't have crazy PSPs.
So, obviously, together we are more than we are apart. So, that was our giant blog.
Yep.
Of 1 million questions, or actually 10.
We got in at 30 minutes. We should stop now so we stay with 30 minutes.
Okay, so we're gonna stop now. We're still working on stuff. There was a wedding. We're behind. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Maya Pantheon's getting close to finished. We're working on character creation and industry otherwise, and I think that's all we have to talk about, and we're gonna run away.
That's everything.
Awesome.
Okay.
See you guys next time.
Like us.